It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha! Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brouhaha. Marshall Wood and Dale McKee, ready to break it down again. Dale, how you doing today?
I'm doing fair to middling. How you doing?
I'll tell you what, I'm doing about like you. I've been better, but I've been worse. But I mean, with all this football stuff and sports stuff that's been going on, there's a lot of people that's been doing better and been doing worse. So a lot to talk about. Big, busy past week, holidays, Christmas, New Year's, bowl games, all kind of stuff, man. Have you reached your quota on NCAA football yet?
Well, I tried to keep up with it a little bit. I was in a group that we picked all the bowl games, and I didn't do too well.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
I couldn't figure out that transfer portal. I didn't know who was in it and who wasn't. So I didn't know what to do. What? Anyway, at my last count, I was 23 and 19 because I picked Alabama and Texas in the last two.
Yeah.
The only two I lost yesterday. I won the rest of them.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was a bad year for me. Bad year. That's all I got to say.
Well, you hit on something. You hit on something I want to talk about a little bit, and that's that transfer portal. You said, coming into the bowl games, you don't know who's going to play and who's not going to play. And that is a huge problem. This is something that really hasn't been a problem for too long a period of time. I remember, I think it was Jabril Peppers, the defensive back from Michigan, maybe at safety was the first one that opted out. But when they had to deal at Ole Miss with the players leaving, I told somebody, I said, when Shea Patterson and Van Jefferson left, Jefferson went to Florida, Patterson went to Michigan, and they were allowed to play immediately. I said, this is fixing to be a mess, and it has turned into a mess. And I want to, Dale, people, if you're not playing for a national championship, these top players are not going to play in these bowl games. I want to just give me a minute to hear me out. I look back over the passage of time, and if teams like, I'm just using Alabama for an example, because I've seen them do it. If they're not playing for a national championship or in line for that national championship, they don't usually bring the same team. They just bring the same people, but the mindset's different. If you're used to playing for championships and you're playing for a game that's not for a championship, your heart's not going to be in it. I've seen that happen. So, look at Florida State. What happened to them? They got left out of the playoff deal. We know all about that. And look what happened to them when they played Georgia. 63-6 or something like that. None of their players played. I've got an idea how to make these players play. I'm going to share that.
You do?
I do. NIL money. Now, I used to be against kids opting out and all that kind of stuff, but I realized something. I went to college. Yeah. I went to college like you did to enhance my revenue generating potential. These guys,
Where you went?
That's why I went. Okay. That's why I went. Why'd you go?
I wanted to gain knowledge.
There you go. Well, anyway, these kids are going to college.
I was like you. I've always heard, you have a junior college degree, you're going to make more than a high school graduate. If you're a high school graduate, you're going to make more than someone that drops out. Yeah. If you're a college four-year guy, then you're going to make more than a junior college and high school in most cases.
Yeah. And
because of the education level. And if you go beyond that, then you're going to even make more. So, but that's not true in every case, but it is it's pretty solid, though.
My point with that is that these guys playing football are playing football to enhance their revenue-generating potential. Now, I've come to the point. I don't blame them. If you're playing in a worthless bowl game, I mean, it's about your future. It's about your revenue-generating potential. And if you're playing in a bowl game that don't stand for anything like a championship, I can understand why they don't risk getting hurt. I can understand that and respect that. Now, how do you make them play? If the NCAA and the universities and everybody's the powers to be, they can come in here and they can demand that these kids play. And here's my thought. Well, they have a viable problem or consideration about getting hurt. Use NIL money on these top, have everybody come in November and do an NFL draft value on these kids. Well, they do that anyway. And if there's a top 3 draft pick out there that's going to play in a bowl game that's not for a national championship, use your NIL money to buy him not a life insurance policy, but an insurance policy about getting hurt and not qualifying for the draft. They could do that. They could force them to play, and if they got hurt, they could get them an insurance policy, pick up about $10 million, and then it'd be set for life. I don't know how else you're going to fix it. Kirby Smart was on the TV. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? You got to make kids play. You got to make them all play. What do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be more difficult because next year, when they start the 12-team playoff, if you're not in the playoffs and your team's not really playing for anything, I don't know, why you would, want to, they go maybe have to start doing like everything else. They may have to start splitting the pot with them at these bowl games. Hey, we got so much money for you players that play in it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, but, it's a different society today. Things are entirely different. Next year they're going to have the 12 teams that first week 5 and 12. But what about the other bowls? Mm-hmm. How are they going to be? I mean, they're going to be left out to the side, people even go watch them unless their teams in them.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of bowls this year, Marshall, and that's usually not like me. But I was kind of on vacation too.
Right.
But in telling you that, there was a lot of bowls that didn't interest me except the final score.
Yeah.
And I would look and say, okay, the final score is this. Okay, I won that game or not.
Right.
I've been a very competitive pot, with these other guys. And we just kind of do it for fun. And Marshall, you're not going to believe this. We've been doing it since like 1975.
Oh, that's a long time.
And, that's a long time. So we've been doing it for almost 50 years. And I don't know how we're going to do it next year.
Yeah.
How we going to pick all these games? How are we going to know, we have to, we still have one game to pick it. I mean, we've already picked them, but we have one game to pick the championship game. I don't know who's going to be in the championship game next year.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier this year because you only had 4 teams to choose from.
Well, you could probably.
But next year, I'm going to have 12 teams to choose from,
Oh, well, now you know better than that. You ain't going to have 12. You're going to have about 2. That really matters. How are you looking back on what's happened this weekend? Anything surprise you? Anything make you sad or make you happy about some of the results? What do you sit back and look? While you're thinking about your response to that question, I'm going to give you some stats. You probably already know them. The Pac-12 was 5-3. The Big 12 was 5-4, and one could make a case. It's interesting since the Big 12 was 5-4, SEC was 5-4. The Big 10, I guess that was the Pac-4 that was 5-4. The Big 10 was 5-4, ACC 3-3, Conference USA 2-2, ACC 5-6, Mountain West 3-4, Sun Belt 5-7, MAC 2-4. It's kind of interesting to me that the Pac-12 ain't gonna be in existence anymore, and they got what they got in the national championship. They moved. Let's see, Washington will be in the Big Ten next year. Michigan's in the Big Ten now. It's like an all Big Ten championship almost, isn't it?
Yeah. And, that's the old kind of Rose Bowl deal, Washington and Ohio State.
Yeah.
Or Michigan and Washington, or what it was. Hey, when you discussing all of that, too, what they going to do with Florida State if they try to get out of the ACC? They're trying to get some Warriors to go in there and read the fine print and see if they get away from the ACC. Where are they going to go?
Who wants them?
I mean, I've heard the SEC said, not so sure.
Yeah.
So where are they going to end up?
That's a great question. And I tell you what, I would not, where I stand on this, I would not have put Florida State in the finals. I would not have. But I hate what it's done to their program. It's decimated them. How are they going to recruit? I mean, playing for a school that goes undefeated and can't get in, I would not have put them in because I didn't think they belonged without their quarterback. But I hate what's happening to them. That program is being destroyed with the conference, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, that ACC commissioner last year, he's the one that voted against an expanded playoff last year. They were going to try to do the playoff last year, if you remember, or start it this year.
Yeah.
And he voted against it.
I don't know, man, what's going to happen to Florida State. It makes me sick for them. I mean, I hate it for them because if I was a fan of that school.
And some of the kids that they had committed to them, they said, well, I'm not so sure I want to go there now.
Yeah.
And, that's terrible for them. Of course, you know what? Somebody posted this, and I'm not out to get Florida State. I think they've had a fun program. Bobby Bowden was down there. They were one of the great programs in college football. But, they beat the dog mess out of Southern Miss.
Yeah.
And, Georgia came back and beat the dog mess out of them. So, somebody posted, now they know how Southern Miss feels,
Yeah.
And that's kind of way it is sometimes,
It's way worse on Florida State than it is Southern because Southern's been whooped like that before. I don't know if Florida State ever has.
Yeah. And they've been whipped by Florida State like that. I remember watching a game in Hattiesburg one year. It was terrible.
Yeah.
And Bobby Bowden never really let up,
Yeah.
So
I hate it for them. I don't know what they're going to do. I was kind of hoping you had a plan to get them back in the thick of things, but maybe they'll find a way. Who knows? Well, for sure, if they could get in a 12-team playoff and win it, they might feel better about themselves. But anyway, good luck, Seminoles, is all I got to say. How you like the matchups for the? What do you think about the games, the CFP games yesterday? Let's talk about the first one. What did you think about that game? Michigan and Alabama.
I thought the difference in the game was the Michigan offense. I thought that they were more creative. I'd say that just from my opinion. The quarterback I thought played a little bit better than the Alabama quarterback. And I think Mike Corum is a tremendous little back, and he proved himself last night. He's their best player, and they gave the ball to him in that moment, and he got him in the end zone.
Yeah.
Alabama, I'm sure Saban told his offensive coach on that last play, we got to give the ball to our quarterback, and he needs to either run it or throw it. But it looked like he just made the decision to run it immediately. And with Michigan, they just filled every hole and there was nowhere to go. And so it turned out to be a terrible looking play in the end. But
I want to say this.
But go ahead.
You talking about Alabama and what they look good. I'm gonna tell you what. You didn't mention Michigan's defensive line. My goodness.
Very outstanding. Very outstanding.
They blew that last play up too, big time. I've been back. We were watching replays of that this morning, watching that guard. The Alabama guy pulled. He missed the block, and then there was a safety came up and hit the guard that was supposed to pick him up, and he ran right over that offensive lineman for Alabama. They blew that thing up, son. Blew it up. They just wanted it a little more, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you what, they had Michigan did have a freshman defensive lineman from California. And that boy he was a man.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was. And, that's the impressive thing about Michigan, 3 years ago, they could not compete with Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And now they can because they're as physical as Alabama.
Well, they're staring at a level 1 violation they've been charged with, and they've been stealing signals and missed 6 games during the course. How can they not get better?
Well, you know what? Everybody does that, and I know that you're against it, but, I'm sure there's people that have binoculars on all of the offensive coaches for Alabama, and I'm sure they got them all for Michigan coaches. Binoculars on them and trying to figure out stuff like that. And, a lot of places, I've seen that they put those signs up.
Yeah.
It might be, it might be a cartoon type sign, and,
Yeah.
and the offensive coach or somebody over there will hold up a sign, and the offense is supposed to know what it is, And so I'm sure you can figure out stuff like that, but I really don't hold that against Michigan. I feel like that's just part of the game. It's like I told you the other day. Baseball, you can cheat, and you got to be caught.
Mm-hmm.
The other team has to catch you. And whether that's stealing signs or ever what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not defending Michigan in any way. I just think, that's just part of the game,
Yeah. Mm.
I'm not going to get upset about it.
Bunch of cheaters.
Yeah. Well, people got their different sayings about it. So I don't worry about it.
All right.
You and Mr. Britton probably have a different view than I do.
Yeah.
But both of y'all are a lot younger than I am.
That's right. You're an old man.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, listen. Let's. Okay. So Michigan got in. They beat Alabama. Now let's roll over there to Washington and the Longhorns of the University of Texas. How did you think that one worked out?
Well, I thought Washington had some outstanding deep throws there by their quarterback to some gifted wide receivers, very gifted wide receivers. We're talking about first-round draft choices.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed about that number 7 for Washington.
Yeah.
Was a Mississippi State transfer. He played at Mississippi State last year.
Seems like I heard them talking about that. Mm-hmm.
And he was running the ball for Washington, and he got hurt.
Yeah.
And but I remember during the season he had like a 200-yard game, and that's the same school that Will Rogers will be going to next year.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So,
that's right.
So anyway, so that should be interesting. Will and the Big Ten. I think that is fantastic there.
Well, we got our national championship set. The Wolverines and Washington. Who do you like in that one?
I like Washington right now.
Really, I'm going with the Wolverines.
Yeah, I like them too.
Yeah.
I think it's a toss-up. I really do. Yeah. I don't know. I just seem to, Washington gives up a lot of points though.
Yeah.
Michigan doesn't, and sometimes defense wins ball games in most cases. But it's I don't know. It's just one of those games that I don't really have. If you base it on last night a little bit, I just thought that I just like the explosion that Washington brings to the game.
Yeah.
But I really like the physicality of Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they just, we call them good old country boys down here. I don't know what to call them up there.
Yeah.
But they're similar to our good old country boys,
They really are. They play a good brand of football. They don't mind, and again, they don't mind doing whatever it takes to win. So I'm not going to bet on the thing, but I do believe Michigan's going to win. But anyway, it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun.
I think that it's going to come down to just like last night. Texas almost came back and won because they were trying to make some big plays there at the end. And the problem Michigan had, problem Washington had. They were just trying to run out the clock,
Yeah.
So, and they almost got beat trying to run out the clock, But I've told you a lot of times, football is a game of control. Control the football and you will win the game, So, anyway.
Let me flip channels on you a minute. We're gonna talk about Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a big deal in NCAA football right now. They really are. Yeah, they've won 10 games a couple of years ago, first time ever. They won 11 games, first time ever. They beat. I heard Reese Davis, I believe it was him, say Saturday or this weekend sometime that if the Rebels beat Penn State, they'll be a preseason top 5 team in the polls coming out next year. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I believe right now there'll be a top 10 team. I look back the last time, of course, when Houston Nutt was at Ole Miss, we were rated like number 3 one time before. Opened up the season on Thursday night at South Carolina. And South Carolina just ripped Ole Miss apart, and Ole Miss never recovered.
Yeah.
And, he was supposed to, do great things that year, and they really didn't.
Yeah.
But, Ole Miss, sometimes they get haunted by that, and they have bad luck when they ever get
It's hard, man. It's hard to play at that top level.
Yeah, it's harder to, like Ole Miss, back when Archie was a junior in Ole Miss, when he had that great 1969 season and the Rebels went 8-3 and they beat Arkansas in the Sugar Bowl. They were rated going into, they finished the year that year at number 8, and that was the year Texas and Arkansas and all of them were, up there. And so...
well, they could finish... They could finish that high or better this year.
Florida State may drop out of the rankings, and I'm sure Penn State will. So they could move up from 11th to 8th there. And
well, let's just look.
So
we got. This is.
So anyway, Ole Miss the next year had everybody coming back in 1970.
Yeah.
And and I think they ended up finishing 20th that year.
Yeah.
Because that was the year they lost to Southern Miss and Mississippi State and LSU, the 3 biggest rivals. Those were the 3 biggest rivals that year,
Yeah.
And so... And I think Ole Miss at one time was ranked as high as number 3 in the country that year, 1970,
Well, when they came out with the first CFP polls, Mississippi State and Ole Miss were both in the, were they 1 and 2?
Well, State was 1. I won't say Ole Miss was like 3 or 4.
Okay. All right.
And, but I could look that up while you were talking. How about that?
No, don't do me any favors. I was just wondering where you think Ole Miss is going to finish this year. You think, probably 8 or 9?
I think they'll be about 7th or 8th.
Okay. All right.
What you think?
I agree with you.
Well, okay, it says here Mississippi State was the number 1 team in that CFC poll in October 28th, November 4th, and November 11th. They were there for 3 weeks. They dropped to number 4. After they lost the Egg Bowl, they went to number 10, and they finished number 7 that year.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's pretty good.
This was 2014. Ole Miss started out at 4, and the next week, Florida beat them. I think it was Florida beat them. They dropped to 11th, and they went to 10th, 8th, and they dropped to 19th. Then they came back up to 12th, and then they finished number 9 that year. So Alabama went from 6th in the first poll to number 1 by the end of the season. And that was the year Ole Miss beat Alabama.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Florida State was second and third that year. So Jimbo was there. Remember Jimbo?
Jimbo.
Where's Jimbo down?
Yeah, that's before.
Where's Jimbo down?
Yeah,
you see Jimbo lately?
He's fishing.
Is he fishing?
He's fishing. Probably on a big old fancy boat too.
Okay.
Well, Dale, we probably talked about this football thing enough. Anything else you got on your mind you want to throw out there?
No, I just wish everybody. I hope they had a Merry Christmas, and I hope that they have an outstanding 2024. I believe that that yesterday was the first day, and I was very proud of my wife. She did not order anything from Amazon the first day of the year.
She's burning daylight. She got to get to work. Got to get busy.
I thought that was outstanding. I think that was one of her, promises during the year, that, hey, I won't order as much from Amazon. And she's honestly gone a day and a half so far without ordering anything, and I'm so proud of her.
Keep an eye on her. She may go into anaphylactic shock here in a few minutes. You better watch out.
It's coming.
Oh, well, listen, I think we've about covered everything. We didn't even take a break, Dale. We've been talking so much. We didn't even take a commercial. Well, we'll take one.
What about them Saints, man? What about them Saints? You didn't mention anything about the great Saints.
Oh, I tell you what, I've been burned by the Saints so much, I always just cover my eyes and look the other way, man. Well, tell us about the Saints. They
played well. So,
they gonna win the Super Bowl?
Radio. I was traveling and I listened to it coming back. I haven't watched really any of their games this year, hardly, but I listened to them on radio coming back, so they played well. They did have me worried there one time because. I was at a service station, and I looked up, and it said, and they were up like 23-7 or something like that. Then I looked up, or maybe it wasn't 23-7, maybe it was 23. It was maybe 23-6. And the next thing I knew, it says up there, it says 23-15. And so, anyway, is that J. Mark trying to get in on my phone?
No, I think I gave him your number. I figured he might call you, but anyway, Dale, let's do this. Let's remind everybody that they can keep up with our shows that we got archived on our YouTube channel at the Brouhaha, and also they can check up for some postings periodically to our Facebook page at the Brouhaha. But you know what, Dale? We've got this show in the books. It's time to say goodbye. Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale, and we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie. Happy New Year, everybody.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.